Welcome to this step-by-step tutorial on how to configure entities and jurisdictions in Oracle Tax Reporting Cloud. During system setup, implementation, or as your business expands, you'll add and configure entities and jurisdictions. I'll show you 3 ways to accomplish this task. Before you start configuring entities, you'll configure the jurisdictions and currencies that these entities will operate in. Jurisdictions categorize the provision for income tax at a national or regional level. National represents a federal or country-level tax. Regional jurisdictions can represent a state, province, territory, or other subdivision. For purposes of deductibility, regional tax amounts can be set up to automatically flow into national calculations. You'll see how to set this up later. Regional tax provisions can be calculated individually or in total by legal entity. In this example, my business is expanding to Canada, so I'll add Canada as a national and Ontario as a regional jurisdiction. Next, I'll create a Canadian legal entity. In the Dimension Editor, I'll first add the jurisdictions, then the currency and entity. I'll add Canada as a national jurisdiction under the TRCS All-National member. I'll enter CA for the name and Canada for the alias. In the Data Storage field, select Store or Never Share. The remaining properties will use the default values. Let's enter Ontario as a regional jurisdiction. I'll enter CA_ON for the name and Ontario for the alias. In the Data Storage field, select Store or Never Share. A best practice here is to be sure this field is not set to Dynamic Calc, since this is a sparse dimension. This applies to regional and national jurisdictions. The remaining properties can use the default values. Next, I'll add the Canadian currency to the currency dimension. Select and expand Input Currencies. Select CAD in the list of standard currencies. For reporting currencies, select the checkbox. Selecting the checkbox adds the currency under the Reporting Currencies member. The remaining properties can use the default values, but can be changed on an exception basis. I'll add the new entity as a child of North America. The application comes with the FCCS Total Geography member, and if you are using FCCS, the same structure is replicated here. You can add an alternate hierarchy, such as a legal entity structure, and base entities can be shared between hierarchies. I'll enter the name, alias, and base currency for the entity. Again, be sure not to set data storage to Dynamic Calc. Both plan types must be selected. On the Attribute Values tab, you assign the Regional Deduction attribute if the regional tax for this entity is deductible in the entity's national jurisdiction. This attribute is only for base entities. Use the Intercompany attribute to signify if the entity will participate in intercompany transactions. Use the Domicile attribute to assign the national jurisdiction. This attribute is assigned only to base entities. Only one domicile is allowed. When you've finished configuration, refresh the database to incorporate all updates and add the entity and jurisdictions to your valid intersections. Data for an entity can only be entered for the national and regional domicile jurisdiction members. To view the list of valid jurisdiction and entity combinations, select Application, Valid Intersections, Jurisdiction and Entity Combination. You've seen how to add jurisdictions, currencies, and entities one at a time using the Dimension Editor. Next, let's see how to do the same by importing a file. In the Application Overview, select the Dimensions tab. I'll create an export. Next, I'll select Local for location, since I want to work with the file on my computer. I'll export the entity dimension with a comma delimiter. After unzipping, I can edit the file. I'll copy an existing entity row and paste it in the first empty row. I'll change the entity name and alias, the base currency to CAD, and the domicile to CA. I'll save the file as a CSV file and close it. Next, I'll import the modified file. Back in the application, I'll create an import, select my modified file for the entity dimension, and then import. I'll check the Jobs screen to make sure the import completed successfully. And then open the entity dimension in the Dimension Editor to verify the entity has been added. Now I'll show you how to use SmartView to add jurisdictions, currencies, and entities. I'll open the entity dimension in SmartView. I'll copy an existing entity and paste it into the first empty row. I'll change the properties here as I did in the batch import example. Next, I'll submit the data. Back in the application, I'll verify the entity has been added by opening the Dimension Editor, switching to the entity dimension, and identifying the entity. In this tutorial, you learned how to configure entities and jurisdictions in Oracle Tax Reporting Cloud. To learn more, visit cloud.oracle.com.